A deepening diplomatic row. International outrage after BJP members insult the Prophet Muhammad. India's ruling party condemns the comments, but are they themselves stoking anti-Muslim sentiment? I'm Efnan Han, and this is the Newsmakers. The Prophet Muhammad is by far and away the most revered figure in Islam. So when a spokesperson for India's ruling BJP decided to insult him, there was bound to be a backlash. But this time, the outrage is international. Party spokesperson Nupur Sharma made disparaging remarks about the Prophet during a debate on one of India's biggest television networks. The head of the party's Delhi media unit, Naveen Kumar Jindal, then also posted incendiary remarks about the Prophet. He was expelled and Sharma was suspended. But for many Indian Muslims, the punishments haven't gone far enough.
I am not requesting our Prime Minister, but demanding that merely suspending Nupur Sharma from the party is not enough. But in the first information report filed with police, filed against her, she should be charged as a terrorist, and the National Security Act be imposed on her for anti-national activities. And she should be arrested and put into a jail.
But Narendra Modi's party may be more concerned about what's happening outside of India. More than a dozen countries expressed their fury, many of them allies. The Saudi-based Organization of Islamic Cooperation said the remarks are part of a growing spate of hatred and defamation of Islam in India and systematic practices against Indian Muslims. The UAE said the comments contradict moral and human values and principles. Qatar summoned the Indian ambassador and demanded an apology. Kuwait did the same. Some supermarkets have even started pulling Indian products from their shelves. The BJP is trying to get a handle on the situation. National Secretary Arun Singh released a statement saying,
"The Bharatiya Janata Party respects all religions. The BJP strongly denounces the insult of any religious personalities of any religion."
But since coming to power, the BJP's been accused of the exact opposite. In 2019, India's parliament passed a bill offering amnesty to illegal immigrants, but it excluded Muslims. The very same year, Modi's party revoked Article 370, removing Jammu and Kashmir's special status under the Indian constitution. And a few months ago, several right-wing Hindu groups held marches through Muslim neighborhoods, delivering hate speeches, triggering violent clashes. The BJP didn't punish the perpetrators. So, does India's ruling party have a problem with Muslims? To discuss that, I'm joined now from New Delhi by journalist Shahid Siddiqui. He's a former member of the Indian Parliament and chairperson of the Interfaith Peace Foundation. Ranjana Kumari also joins us from the capital. She's the director of the Center for Social Research. And in Mumbai is Sanjay Jha, a former national spokesperson for the Indian National Congress. Now, we did reach out to several members of the BJP, but unfortunately, none agreed to appear on the program. Thank you all for being with us here today on the Newsmakers. It's a pleasure having you with us today. Now, the BJP says India is a secular democracy, but the actions of the BJP doesn't reflect that too much. The comments that Nupur Sharma made is only the tip of the iceberg of the long and tumultuous history of violence against Muslims in India. Shahid, I want to start with you. There is indeed a Modi factor here. We can't ignore that. What's it like being a Muslim in today's India?
It's an unfortunate situation, but let me clarify one thing, that India and Indian constitution is very secular. India is a secular country. BJP as a political party, certain sections of the BJP are Islamophobic. A large section is ideologically against Muslims in certain ways. Their politics depends on, questioning the past and the 700 or 800 years of the so-called Muslim rule. I don't regard that as Muslim rule. There were Mughals, there were others, but they were not. It was not Islamic or Muslim rule even in those times. So BJP has been thriving on this sentiment and has been exploiting the majority community's fears and dislike. And global Islamophobia has also helped BJP in this area. And therefore, As Muslim, I feel that I am secure, I am safe, but there are areas in this country where minorities are not feeling that safe. And especially since 2014, the situation is getting from bad to worst.
Right, Ranjana, I want to bring you in here now. Looking at Sharma's case, after she made those remarks about the Prophet Muhammad, Indian Muslims quickly reacted with protests. The government was silent. Then we got some international reaction. Muslim countries like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait condemning those remarks, and even Kuwait pulling Indian products off from their shelves in markets. The BJP then quickly responded, suspending Sharma. It wasn't the anger of the Indian Muslims that prompted the government to take action, or even the comments that Sharma made, but it was the threat of international condemnation and the economic repercussions. Was the understandable frustration of protesters not important enough for officials to suspend Sharma?
And this is really unfortunate, the way ruling party waited to react to this. We all were appalled. It is absolutely unacceptable what Nupur Sharma said, and we condemn it in unequivocal terms. She has absolutely no understanding of any religion, forget about Islam. So I don't think she had any right to make any kind of comment, and I totally reject that comment. Having said that, I agree with Shahid Bhai that India is a civilizationally a culture where we have been, Sarva Dharm Sambhav, that's the culture of India. Respect for all religion equally. And as a result, you can see all religions have flourished in India. Second largest Muslim population is in India. So you don't have to, I don't think just by some these anti-social elements, I will call them, because neither they have understanding of any religion, forget about Hinduism or Islam or Christianity, nor they are sensible people, nor they are people who really have any faith in Indian constitution, which is secular, which is democratic, and we all swear by our constitution. So I think these elements are certainly creating trouble in the country. They are certainly responsible for a lot of things which have happened with some of the Muslim people, which is unacceptable. And as I said, that this is not something, but let's see this, that India respects all religion, and that is why when constitution was created, we accepted secularism as our founding principle, and that is why we cannot, and I don't think Indian Muslims and Hindu majority lives in really in cooperation, and we love each other, we do all festival, we celebrate everything together. So I don't think this is something to do with people of India. This is to do with the political party, and that is to some elements within that political party. So that's what is happening at the moment. So please don't think that this is what is happening. Muslims are feeling unsafe. I have Muslim colleagues in my organizations. We are all working very, very happily together. There is no reason why we should think there's such a statement. And let me condemn this statement. Let me tell that she has absolutely no business. There should be a criminal charge against her for saying something what she said about Prophet. So I don't think we should accept this kind of a situation about India. India is a country where we respect all religion. India is a country where we respect all our people as citizens of this country.
Right, I'm sure mainstream citizens feel the same way as you, but the BJP is representing your country at the moment. Do you think the BJP reflects the notion of being a secular democratic nation?
Well, there are elements in BJP. Nobody can deny that. And I think Shahid Bhai said that very clearly, that there are elements who are, and especially Rashtriya Sevak Sangh, which is their one of the front organization. There are elements who have been feeding this kind of ideological positioning, who have been really spilling venom against the minority community in the country. There is no, I'm not denying that at all. And that needs to be totally stamped, controlled, and done away with. But but that does not change the nature of our lives. That does not change the nature of our culture. That does not change our constitution.
Okay.
That does not change how we live with each other in cordiality, in warmth, in love with each other. That doesn't change really. I tell you, this is what India is. It doesn't change the idea of India.
All right, I want to bring Sanjay in. I want to get your thoughts, because from what I gather, you're worried for the reputation of your country. Do you think that the BJP and Modi himself is anti-Muslim, and that this is having a tremendous impact on India?
Well, I respectfully disagree with both my former, panelists for whom I have the highest personal respects. I think it's about time we bit the bullet and accepted certain hard realities. India has been experiencing very violent and, in my opinion, a very vulgar kind of coarse bigotry over the last 8 years. And I believe since 2014, that has got progressively accentuated, aggravated with the kind of religious hate that one sees, not just in speeches, but in terms of lynching violence and threats being given to different sections of the minorities. And until we accept that reality, I don't see how we can change. Both Mr. Siddiqui and the lady panelist mentioned that sections of the BJP are different. I don't agree with that. The BJP's ideological mentors are the RSS, which is based out of Nagpur, and they clearly do envisage and dream of a Hindu Rashtra, which is driven by nothing but creating a majoritarian sentiment in the country. So I think we need to somewhere down the line understand that this spokesperson of the BJP making that comment on a television screen is not an isolated or a sudden happenstance. This is a culmination of years of what I call as hate speeches, dog whistle politics, and a general belief that the only way for the BJP to win elections is to polarize the country. And if I know the BJP as a political party well, they will not complain about the embarrassment that we are currently experiencing globally for the hate speeches, but they will try and create a strategy to domestically exploit it for the elections that will come up. Because at the end of the day, when the very reason that you exist, your entire foundation is based on nothing but a religious segregation of communities, what I call is a divide and rule politics. I really don't think the BJP is really going to change, even after this extremely embarrassing, deeply unfortunate, highly regrettable event or episode that has happened.
Hmm.
Because India, and I'll agree here with both Rajkumari ji and Shahid Bhai, India has got a great historical, shall we say, foundation. It's a civilizational story. It's a secular, inclusive democracy that we are all proud of. But
Right.
I'm sorry to say that in the last 8 years, that famous India story is being dismantled and destroyed.
Right. Since 2014, actually, a number of laws have been put into effect, and we're seeing a completely different picture than the secular democratic India that you guys have painted for us here. To name a few legislations, the Uttarakhand Freedom of Religion Act in 2018. This was the first of several laws that was introduced in BJP states after the conspiracy theory of love jihad, as we all know, began, and it carries a punishment of up to 10 years in prison. Or the more recently Citizenship Amendment Bill, which offers amnesty to only non-Muslim illegal immigrants from its neighboring countries. Let me cross back to you, Shahid. This doesn't sound or look like a secularly democratic country.
No, you see, we have to differentiate between the country and the government. The country is democratic and secular. I have no doubt about that. I will disagree with anybody who thinks that India is not secular as a society. But so far as the government is concerned, so far as the ruling party is concerned, it is definitely not secular in its ideology. That government and the ruling party is thriving on anti-Muslim sentiments and has been using it to get political benefits. And I think since 2014, it's the worst time for Indian Muslims. I have been active in politics. I have been active in social life for last 50 years, and I have not seen such a bad phase for Indian Muslims. Indian Muslims have always stood out. I mean, unlike Muslims elsewhere, Indian Muslims have never supported any kind of violence, any kind of terrorism in worst kind of situations when they faced horrible communal riots where thousands of Muslims were killed. They refused to stand with any kind of terrorist forces. They rejected Al Qaeda, they rejected IS, they have rejected all such forces. And I'm proud of Indian Muslims. Indian Muslims have stood with the nation. Indian Muslims have stood with humanity and with extremely enlightened approach to Islam. But today, they are passing through one of the most difficult phases of their whole existence. And I agree with Sanjay that their very existence is in question. But at the same time, I do not lose hope. I think that we will be able to fight back and change, because I have total faith in Indian civilization, the roots of Indian democracy and its constitution. And therefore, we are Indian Muslims are facing a very difficult time, but BJP will have to understand if it really wants to remain in power. It cannot go on and on. There's a limit to everything. They have been exploiting and dividing people, using religion to remain in power, but there's a limit to it. Beyond a limit, it becomes counterproductive. And I think the time has come when this kind of rabid, bigoted politics is proving to be counterproductive. They may try it more and more, but I am sure that the country will gradually get out of this situation.
Ranjana, let me bring you in here, because you said that we can't hold the whole of BJP to account for the actions of a couple of members, but taking into consideration these laws that have been created since 2014, and when we look at the comments that some of the members that they have made in the past, and I'm talking about high-ranking officials here, it's hard to not believe that there are Islamophobic sentiments within the party. The Minister of Home Affairs of the BJP, Amit Shah, described Muslim migrants from Bangladesh as termites while he was the president of the BJP in 2019. The Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, called Muslim lawmakers a green virus infecting the country. And it's important to note that Uttar Pradesh is a state in India that has the highest Muslim population. Are Muslims being marginalized and dehumanized by high-ranking officials of the BJP?
Well, there are these certainly unacceptable statements. There is no doubt about that these are, but look at the larger Indian society, the intelligentsia, the people at large do not have these kind of comments. This is playing politics. This is playing politics to remain in power. And that is why, as divide and rule, this is why the majority, they are just whipping the sentiments of majority to get vote every time. And recent election, it has paid off. They did win every state. They got the votes, and they've got all kinds of horrible statements they have made. Still, they got the vote. So that's what is going on at the moment. We have to understand that. And and as far as you talked about love jihad and issues like that. Do you know we have a practice of honor killing? Do you know the girl, when it comes to a story of women, it's totally, they all are the same across the board. Because when it comes to killing the women, when a Hindu girl deciding to marry another Hindu boy who's not the same caste gets killed by the parents themselves, by the village people, by brother, father, everybody, all these men are then gang up and go against women. So it's very, very rights of women, which is been protected. And so many, it's not only the Muslim girls have been attacked, it's Dalit girls have been attacked. There are so many cases of rape against Dalit girls that I can quote here. And they're not just Muslim girls. So what you have to understand is that as a society, first of all, there are many contradictions. And as a society, we do have a gender contradiction in a very, very strong way, where women, when it comes to facing all kinds of whipping by whatever kind of measure, we are at disadvantage. Women are at disadvantage. But when it comes to politics, then it is really paying off to BJP, and that's why BJP is playing this game as they are playing to whip. But that does not mean, at no cost, please believe that this society is secular society. People respect each other. People work with each other. Only when it comes to politics, politicians everywhere in the world. Look at the right wing everywhere in the world doing what they are doing. It's not only in India. Look at France, look at America, look at any other country. And this is precisely what is happening even in our country. But let me tell you, these people have been thrown out of the party from their primary membership, both of them. And if they had not, then one would believe that party as such is somewhere conniving with what they said. But they have been thrown out, and I'm sure there is going to be action, criminal charge, because Bombay police has called Nupur Sharma for speaking to them.
I only have 6 minutes time left here, so I want to get into a couple of other issues. We've been focusing for the most part on the BJP and the actions that it's taken, but there are also Hindutva groups calling for a Muslim genocide. One that went viral was the religious gathering that was held in Hardwar, where leaders called even on people to pick up arms to protect their religion, as they described it. Do you think, Sanjay, that the political parties, including the BJP rather, and Modi himself, have been silent towards these Hindutva groups?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is that India intrinsically has a syncretic culture, and that is being upended today. So, to answer your question, when these extremely violent manifestations were visible, where you have people coming and these are extreme, I would say probably you can call it fringe groups if you like, if you're being very charitable, but they are calling for the genocide of 200 million people in this country. 200 million people. And what does the
They're
government do?
crazy.
It doesn't say anything at all. I mean, I expect the prime minister of the country to speak emphatically, unambiguously, explicitly to defend my friend Shahid Bhai, or because he's a citizen of this country too. I mean, I'm just appalled and aghast as to how the leadership of our country remained silent when there was call for bloodletting.
Mhm.
And these are unfortunate, grave developments that we cannot afford to ignore. It's a
Right.
sinister congregation that happened. And therefore, the sum and substance of my response to your question is that, listen, it's very easy to say that, the country is secular, but the political party is not. But the political party is actually telling people that, listen, you have given me the mandate, and therefore we believe what we're doing is what you want.
Mhm.
Therefore, society and politics are actually inextricably interlinked, and
Right.
politicians will do it. So, Mr. Modi and his party believe they have got the legitimacy today to attack the minorities. That may not be the case, but the people of India, through votes, civil society, opposition, media, wonderful, eminent people like Rajkumari ji and Shahid Bhai, and people like me, we all have to stand up and speak for a united country.
Mhm.
And I hope we don't fail.
Right. Let's take a look now at the Gujarat riots that took place in 2002, where hundreds of people were killed. Shahid, do you think that um, Prime Minister Modi could have done more and could have been more vocal about the riots that had unfolded to come back from all the damage that had been done at the time?
Definitely, he should have taken the moral responsibility for the killing of nearly 2,000 Muslims in Gujarat. That was one of the worst riots in the history of India. And he refused to even apologize. He refused to take any responsibility. He refused to accept the fact that this was something against the very fabric of this country. And I think he developed his politics. He was able to emerge as a leader only because he did not speak out against the killers, against those who went on a spree of loot and killing in Ahmedabad and Gujarat. So he has built his politics on the riots of 2002. That is the most unfortunate part of his politics. And India will never, uh, you
Right.
know,
You actually interviewed Modi after those riots had taken place. And at the time, you were part of the Samajwadi Party, and you got expelled actually for that interview, if I'm not mistaken.
yes,
The
yes.
president of the Genocide Watch, Gregory Stanton, thinks that it's only a matter of time till genocide is announced in India. What about you? Do you
That is
think that that's going to happen?
unfortunately we are. If we don't do something about it, we are moving on that path of genocide. I fear for the first time, I fear for myself, for my family, for my children, for people around me. I have never feared in this country. I have been proud of this country. I have been to jail many times. In Congress regimes, I have been in jail, but
Mhm.
I have never feared for myself. But today, I fear for myself, for my children. And that is the sentiment of most of the Muslims today who stand for this country, who love this country, who love every particle of this country.
Mhm.
We are totally Indians. We have total faith in this country. But today we feel extremely sad and extremely, broken.
Right.
I mean, that is unfortunate part today.
All right. I want to quickly cross back to Sanjay. I have very little time left, and I want to touch on this issue of a genocide. I mean, the Holocaust didn't start in gas chambers. It began with hate speech, and genocides are predictable. You go through a certain process before a genocide is declared, and you can prevent it. But to prevent it, you have to recognize the problem. Sanjay, looking at all the events that have unfolded, the rise in hate crimes, dehumanization, persecution, if things continue at this pace, how bad could things get for Muslims in the country?
Well, it's worrying. I can't deny that it's worrying. But I also want to tell you this, that I have great faith in India's plurality, its religious diversity. I want to tell my friend Shahid Bhai that people like me, there are innumerable people. The majority of the Hindus even today are extremely tolerant people. Hindutva is not Hinduism. And the political party like the BJP may play all its vicious games for votes, but I think India at its core, quintessentially, remains a secular country where there is love and compassion for each other. I think the politics of the BJP is disrupting and completely demeaning the values we stand for. But I am optimistic. I'm very optimistic that India will fight.
Okay. All right, we'll have to end on that note. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have left here on The Newsmakers. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Efnan Han. Thank you to our guests. Goodbye for now.